Hello everyone, if you're new to my channel, welcome. I will state this once again, QNT will be the most expensive token in history, not coin, token. On top of that, Jasmy to reach a $17 KPI target by 2026 as referenced in their original white paper. What I have in regards to the whole update about Project Stargate, you're going to want to hear the research I have presented to you. If you're brand new to this channel, I can guarantee you I will open your eyes to things you're not aware of, and if you're a regular to this channel, you're going to want to stick around because I also have some material that you're simply not aware of and provide you actual evidence to back up the hypothesis of the Quant connection and yes, even the Jasmy connection. So again, smash that like, consider sticking to the end of the outline. Let's get into the material and what matters. There'll be chapters. You're watching 2x speed. Heck, you don't have time to watch it all. Hit the pause button. Come back later. Whatever happened to the days of VHS and so on. Yeah, we moved past it, but everybody knows about a pause button. So let's get into it.
If managing your crypto feels like solving a puzzle, it's time to switch to Decent Wallet. It's just a few taps. You can manage, track, and secure your crypto with unmatched ease. And here's the best part. Grab your Decent Wallet at a discounted price by using the referral link below. Don't miss out on making your crypto experience smoother and more secure.
First thing we're going to pull up is this. It is from a particular scientist slash researcher with over 300,000 followers, and he's written some books in the past. Who is this person? Well, shout out to this guy, Brian Romilly. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. He did an excellent piece about this whole thing of, in the future, you will hear a lot about Jasmy and AI in the US. Here's why. I'm going to get into the highlights of this. You're more than welcome to jump more into it, okay? So for one, I will go ahead and reshare this right now. And I'm going to get into, again, the highlights because Stargate Project, a US AI initiative, is part of this whole thing of the interplanetary file system. Honorable mention to even things like I hold, Filecoin. But is Jasmy part of that mix? Well, the answer is yes. But I want to play this quick little clip of President Trump on his full first day yesterday of why this is important. We'll jump right back. Here we go.
In total, before the end of my first full business day in Washington in the White House, we've already secured nearly $3 trillion of new investments in the United States, and probably that's going to be 6 or 7 by the end of the week. Tremendous amounts of money are coming in for many things other than even AI. AI seems to be very hot. It seems to be the thing that a lot of smart people are looking at very strongly. And our country will be prospering like never before. I think that's true, and it's going to be the golden age of America in total.
All right, so much more than just this. As I get further into it, I want to also point out some key things about the $500 billion investment over the 4 years by OpenAI, SoftBank, and of course Oracle. Now, a lot of people that saw SoftBank thought of Jasmy immediately, and a lot of you guys from Quant, when you see Oracle, you think, for example, Quant Network immediately because, let's face it, Oracle is part of the Quant Network ecosystem. We also know about, for example, JP Morgan a few weeks ago announcing the whole thing of Oracle for the infrastructure. So again, there's that, but it's not just that. There's a lot more to it than just that. I guarantee you're going to enjoy this outline with the backed up research. So as I got further into this, I wanted to highlight again some key things. So look at this. We know if you study Jasmy about the secure knowledge communicator and smart guardian solutions, but understanding it's the framework. Trust. You can have all the value, but you have the trust. Based on the investment, SoftBank has made their commitment to Jasmy. We can basically gather the assumptions that the plan is moving forward. It is clear that Jasmy was not mentioned, but this is why you follow guys like him, or maybe even me. And I'll show you a clip from NeoXTricks about how this falls under the umbrella of SoftBank and OpenAI and all this. So Jasmy's tech acts as the backbone of this vision. Core issues, data security, scalability, and of course, transparency and decentralization. A lot of projects boast that, but I'm not going to give you an intro to Jasmy. You can check that out on other deep dives. But here's the thing. I agree with this. Game changer for global tech. Jasmy's contributions are not merely complementary, they are foundational. Now, that's what makes them stand out. But how? Again, back to the SKC, redefine data integrity. If you're not aware of SKC, the Secure Knowledge Communicator, revolutionizes the way decentralized networks manage data by guaranteeing what? Authenticity, IoT security, on and on, right? But look at this. I like where it mentions the whole thing of SoftBank. And I also like the whole idea that when we get further into this whole thing, towards the bottom, it talks about, for example, edge computing. Incorporating edge computing, Jasmy Smart Guardian enhances both security and efficiency. Like a want and need for some of this stuff, right? And as I got further down into this, I said to myself, well, what kind of global impact of Jasmy will we have? We know that Jasmy redefines data ownership by giving user control over their personal data. But again, it's for the governments, it's for the corporations, the future use of US AI. Think about Junction, everybody, and what they're trying to solve, what Hara is mentioning in regards to, what they're trying to do with this whole thing of Junction. So I'm not going to get into so much about that, but I will talk about the global efforts, and especially the US efforts for SoftBank in the US. So collaborating on large-scale AI initiatives, Jasmy ensures data security, privacy, and of course aligns with government priorities moving forward. All right, is that all we have in regards to this? Well, the answer is no. I was going to include this in this outline, but I did a separate outline with Channing Harrell. This guy, Robot Central, how does this impact OpenAI competitors, especially XAI? Who will own the infrastructure? Who will be allowed to use it? I have an answer in another video. Will premiere tomorrow, actually, on his channel at 8 a.m. Eastern. It'll be later on my channel. All right? So be on the lookout for that on his channel, and it's at King Channing. Now, we have the answer in regards to XAI, and I'm going to tell you flat out, I will show you the answer in regards to Quant. Big bombshell. Jumping further into this. Back to NeoX-Trix. 10 years ago, Masayuki-san declared in this interview, quote, bringing information revolution. Listen to it from him. Apply it to Jasmy. We'll play this. Follow guys like NeoX-Trix, one of the best in the business. Here we go.
If I can help, bringing information revolution to mankind, I don't have to do everything. I can bring everybody else's talent. I can bring the infrastructure.
That was just real quick. Bring the infrastructure, he says. Think about that for a moment, right? And so this is the head guy, basically, of SoftBank. So OpenAI, SoftBank. What about some of these other big players? What does Max really have? Well, check this out. This is, I know, a deep dive, but you are going to see so much info packed into this outline. So as I jump more into this, I want to share some other key things, and that is understanding the Japanese connection. Now, we mentioned quite a bit in regards to Jasmy. What about the whole thing of Quant? All right, check this out. Web3hackathon.io. You see here, as I blow this up, this particular gentleman. He is Miyazawa Kazumasa. Why highlight him? Well, this particular person is a member of the Japanese Representative Committee of ISO TC 307, Quantum Network Standard, the international organization for the standardization of blockchain. He's a lecturer in school and engineering, part of the Department of Industrial Engineering and Economics. He was also a part of Tokyo Institute of Technology, joined Sony back in 1980, participated in development of EDI, the pioneer of electronic money in Japan, served as an executive director of BitWallet, executive director of Rakuten, EDI, and also was chairman and general manager of Sorimitsu. I understand that Sorimitsu is way down there. I don't want to get into the whole thing of that. Might be opportunity. I don't know. Don't shoot the messenger. But he wrote books such as E-Money Revolution, A Journey from Sony to Rakuten. So you can understand, all right, potentially a Jasmy connection because of Sony. Now, as we jump further into this, I know this is just on Grok, but I did see some links that were taken down on a simple search. Did Miyazawa Kazumasa, the guy we just showed, ever work or partner with SoftBank? And according to Grok and other AI ones, yes, Miyazawa Kazumasa worked with or partnered with SoftBank. He was involved in initiatives related to digital currencies and blockchain tech, specifically on his leadership at Sorimitsu. There were collaborations or partnerships that involved SoftBank, particularly in the context of exploring and implementing blockchain solutions like CBDCs in various regions. All right, getting to the next part to establish some things you're not aware of. bitFlyer. If you go to blockchain.bitflyer.com, I showed this in another outline, but again, there's a lot of new people. What do you see here in regards to some of this? Well, basically speaking, you see here this particular person, Yuzo Kano, CEO of bitFlyer. Born in 1976, grew up in Aichi Prefecture, graduated from the Department of Engineering. You see the robust history. Representative Director of the Japan Blockchain Association. His committee involvement includes the following: ISO TC 307 Quant Network Standard, period. Plain as day. All right, interesting. But also interesting, Private Sector Data Utilization Planning Executive Committee. All right, so there is a plug to private data and utilization of that, right? Think about it. I've been harping on this for a few years ago that at some point, Jasmy and Quant would, cross paths, maybe indirectly speaking. You may never ever hear of a partnership. It might not even matter because it's standards, everybody. As we jump further into this, I want to share this also from blockchain.bitflyer.com. It's these press releases about simplifying the world with blockchain. And interesting, when you get to this part, doesn't that logo look very familiar? Yes, it does. It looks almost exactly like the Jasmy logo. So bitFlyer's original blockchain, Miyabi, uses an independently developed consensus algorithm and a robust high-speed smart contract execution engine for the ultimate in performance. And again, some of these members, and like we saw, ISO TC 307. Now watch this, just in case you're not aware of it. Again, that focus on that, that logo. Simplify the world with blockchain. Engraves 4,000 transactions per second. Blockchain Miyabi is about to make history. Do they really have a Jasmy connection? I don't know that, but I found it interesting. The connections and also the logo is very, very similar, to say the least. And if anything, moving forward, understand, like it says, new forms of financial transactions. Why them? I mean, I know we're talking about, for example, Jasmy. We're talking about Quant, but even with Quant, there's the whole thing that stands out in regards to supply chain platform. So I take it further into this. I want to point out this from their flyer. Okay, why? Well, what do you see in regards to some of this stuff? bitFlyer, Miyabi, again, it very well looks the same. AI, right? Obviously, emphasis on AI. And as we get further down into this, you can kind of see, some of their players, right? And I know it's all in Japanese and whatnot, but it's something to be said about Hyperledger Fabric. All right, and we know that Quant uses Hyperledger Fabric built into the Overledger. Okay, and then you see Quorum. We know that about Quorum, JP Morgan. We know about Quorum, we know about JP Morgan and Oracle. Okay, and we obviously know about R3 Corda. So interesting to see this, and even the interpretation of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and so on. As I take you to the next part, back to that whole thing of the logo. Why is that important? Again, look at it. It looks very similar to the Jasmy logo. Okay, and I don't have confirmation. I'm just saying, interesting to point that out. As I take you to the next part, about bitFlyer real quick. bitFlyer, largest Bitcoin exchange in the world by volume, transacting $250 billion a year to date. Founded in 2014, bitFlyer grown to more than 2 million users. Do they have a USA plug, Maximus? They do. It says here that they have related applications. Parent company of bitFlyer USA, you get the gist. Okay, so there is a US plug. As we jump further into even this, what else do we have in that regard? Well, we have the next particular page. If you go to blog.bitflyer.com, they agree to acquire FTX Japan. Yeah, that's right. As said here, they agree to purchase or acquire, to say 100% of the share of the capital of FTX Japan. And this is from bitFlyer. So when we talk about some of these things, interesting to see this. And FTX Japan is also subject to United States Bankruptcy Court. And we understand, or understood, I should say, how that all unfolded, dating back to, of course, last June, so on and so forth. As we get now into Quant side of things, to reference Japan, I want to point this out. Back in February of 2024, Quant, as we know, or you may not know, Granted the United States patent for chronologically ordering blockchain transactions. What the heck does this have to do with the United States and Japan? Well, what it says, this whole thing of this patent titled Blockchain Communication Ordering recognizes that Quant has invented a unique method for chronologically ordering transactions from different blockchains. In a nutshell, everybody, what does that mean? It means that Quant is going to be the Google of crypto. Okay, I know I also stated that there's literally the graph, and they stand out too. But if I had to pick one, I'm going to go with Quant, because guess what? Full interoperability because they're blockchain agnostic. Look at this part right here. Having also secured a patent from the Japanese Patent Office back in 2023, this represents another significant milestone in Quant's ongoing mission to make distributed ledger technology simple, trusted, and just that, future-proof. Cites the patent, as you see here, and of course recognizes the consensus and how it all comes together. All right, so we've already been there and done that for the most part. Let's jump into the next part. Why? Well, as we get further into this, I want to share some new terminology that will really open your eyes. So for one, if we go to government.lu/DAM-assets, you pull up this PDF, it cites this thing called ISO/AWI TS23259. It's a new ISO standard you're not aware of. I can almost guarantee you never heard of it. Legally binding smart contracts. We're talking about not just XDC, everybody, of the electronic bills of lading and the whole thing of XDC and, you know, the Electronic Documents Act, which is law. How about Quant and law? Hear me out. As I zoom this in, I want you guys to see the whole concept of this legally binding smart contracts. ISO TS 23259 will define models, components, structures, and workflows for the creation of smart contracts intended to be legally binding. Legally binding smart contracts? This document will not give rules or recommendations for legal or legislative purposes or processes, but look what it says in regards to Table 28. This is Table 28 that you're looking at, by the way. Okay, so this means projects under development of who? TC307, that's Quant Network Standard. And by definition, this is a new discovery for me. Maybe other people knew about it, but you know, we all learn in our own time. AWI, if you wonder what that means, is approved worked item. It designates the standards developed stage, and like it says, harmonized in codes. And NP doesn't mean no problem, right? But it means new project. Okay, and again, in the future, I'll give you guys more of some of those particular updates. All right, getting into the next one, because again, I'm trying my best not to make this 2 hours. What about the whole thing of Etsy? Remember how I quoted Etsy before? So, International Standards Organization, Quant Network Standard, TT307. You have the whole thing of liaisons like European Commission, Enterprise Ethereum Alliance, Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers, ITU, OECD, even SWIFT, UNECE, UNECE, I always say UNESEC, and International Federation of Surveyors. And here's how this works. ISO IWI TS23259. Remember that one that was just recently approved? Well, legally binding smart contracts. Okay, and it totally connects to this. Well, what about private data, Max? You mentioned the whole thing of Jasmy. Right. Look where ISO TC307 connects us to things like ISO CDTR 23244, privacy and personally identifiable information protection considerations. And of course, we understand how 27001, which is Jasmy standard, connects to ISO TC307. We've done those deep dives. We already verified that. Now this gets better, everybody. How so? Well, as I take you over to here, I want you guys to see this about the call for participants. Again, why even bother? Well, September 2024, in the ISO TC68 newsletter, we know that, you know, this is in September, but the key thing is TC68 is you know, ISO TC307 is the liaison to TC68. So the highlight shows that a joint working group on digital currencies recently established between ISO TC68 and TC307 under TC68 administration. The reference number for the group is what you see there, TC68 with Joint Working Group 1. Joint Working Group intends to produce a digital currencies vocabulary standard by 2027. 2027, okay? Vocabulary standard, that's an index. Okay, look at this. ISO IWI 24982, digital currencies vocabulary. Where's the US plug, Max? Jennifer Bond-Caswell is the joint working group co-convener representing T68. All right, Quant is the liaison. The joint working group co-convener representing TC307 has not yet been determined, but the JWG, which meets weekly, held its kickoff. Right at that time, I have an update for you guys, and this gets really, really good to say the least, because when you get further into it, again, you're going to see some real key things here about all of it, okay? And I'm going to jump over to Jennifer Bond-Caswell. All right, so look what it says here. Jennifer Bond-Caswell, Senior Program Manager, cited from LinkedIn, ISO International Organization for Standardization, from the University of Tennessee, works in Washington, D.C., and again, why even point her out? Well, as we get further into this, man, oh man, you will see, like it says, she has experience with TC68, liaison to 307. She's part of X9A, she's a vice chairman, and X9A is headquartered in the United States, leads Financial Services Committee, developing industry standards for electronic and emerging payments, and subcommittee for digital ledger technologies. All right, Max, what about the U.S. plug? How about this? Look at what it says. From 2014 to March of 2023, she worked for the United States Department of Treasury, Office of Financial Research. Currently, she serves as a key player in the United States Treasury's mission to improve the U.S. economic and financial systems, influencing today's global economy, actively involved in the development of mortgage financial data standards, collaboration with the Financial Stability Oversight Council and member agencies. She heightens the quality, transparency, and accessibility of financial data and advocates for best practices in risk management. Think about that for a second. I mean, that's profound. As we get further into this, I want to jump into this next particular part, and that is jumping over to this other person. Okay, so TC68 newsletter, now an update, November 2024. What do we see now? You see not only Jennifer Bond-Caswell, but you also see co-convener representing 307, which is Quant Network Standard, Dr. Jeffrey Goodall, excuse me. All right, why point that out? Well, here's why. This guy has a robust history. He's a member of British Standards Institute, co-convener of ISO Working Group on Foundation of Blockchain. But he started his career as an associate at Goldman Sachs in New York. He later moved to Boston, became partner and chief investment officer of Phase Capital, an asset management firm. He developed and managed a systematic macro strategy for institutional clients. He has a PhD in computer science from Harvard. He has an undergraduate degree in mathematics from MIT. And he earned his dissertation in regards to all this a while back. And he has a focus on digital identity, digital payment systems, regulation. All right. What about what this other thing is about? Well, what you see here is a joint working group of digital currencies from committee.iso.org. And it talks about, for example, some of these other key people, about what they do. But again, I want you guys to understand that all of this was part of a lineup about TC307. And again, Universal Financial Industry Message Scheme? Think about it. ISO 222. Look at this. Call for experts to participate in TC307, or TC68, I should say, which is the liaison for improving transparency in financial and business reporting. Harmonization. And that already ended in October. Does it take you further into this? Well, here's why I got into the whole thing on ISO AWI 24982, which is under the umbrella of TC307. Approved worked item. Still kind of being worked on, right? Again, the key towards being a blockchain index. That's huge for Quant. All right, taking you further into this, what about the United States? Again, this gets better and better. As you get in the whole thing about the United States, you see here, Introduction to ISO 222 standard and the registration process, committee.iso.org on this PDF, says that Masayuki, who's referred to as Mike Tagai, is the convener of ISO 222 registration. ISO 222 RMG supervises the overall registration process for ISO 222 standard and reports to ISO TC68 SC9. Mike is a member of the Accredited Standards Committee X9. That's why I mentioned it earlier with the other lady. ASC X9 represents the United States in TC68, and Quant Network is what? The liaison to TC68. Boom, boil it, mash it, sick it, and stew. That is your Quant Network plug to the United States. And of course, he's part of ISO 222 RMG. Now, why is that important? Well, as we again take you further into it, Look at this. This is again on a search documents from ISO222.org Registration Management Group. The RMG was created back in 2004, has first meeting began in 2005, but the RMG is the highest ISO 222 registration body. It supervises the overall registration process and reports to ISO TC68 SC9. The role of RMG is to promote and support the involvement of financial services actors to facilitate the registration and maintenance of high quality, globally relevant ISO 222 compliant business models for exchange of information for financial services. The mission of the RMG is to ensure that ISO 222 is a trusted standard, providing high quality business models for exchange of information and financial services. The RMG defines the scope of necessary SEGs, approves business justifications for new messages, and allocates them to one or other SEGs. The RMG also acts as a court of appeal in case of conflicts between the RA and the TSG, the SEGs, and the organizations that want to develop ISO 222 messages. So this is the cream of the crop. They rise to the top. All right, look at this. What else do we have in regards to this registration management group list of the RMG? Boom. RMG has 43 delegations from the following member entities. Australia, you have Actis. How many times have you heard, tokenizer talk about Actis? But look at this. Canada, Bank of England. China, Bank for International Settlements. As we get further down into this, Japan, you have DTCC. And we've covered this in other outlines. If you're new to this, this might be great to you. But as we get further down into this, also, I want to point out some other key things. For the United States, MasterCard. We know about MasterCard, Stellar, Hedera, and even Quant. All right? Look at this. United States Nacha. Honorable mention to who? Stronghold, SHX. Interesting to see that. Ripple. Boom. United States. Swift, United States. Going to have their butts saved by apparently Chainlink. Visa. We know about Visa and Quant. We know about Visa and some of the other big players like Stellar, Hedera, so on and so forth. And look, boom, X9. All right? What about their member list? A little bit more about this. You got Bank of England, Royal Bank of India. We get further down into this, MasterCard, DBA. But as I get further down to this, State Street, Swift, Bank of Japan, JP Morgan Chase in Japan once again. Ripple with, of course, part of that mix. Heck, even Nacha, I think we just saw him. So, I mean, this is all aging extremely well, to say the least. And as I take you further into this at Swift.com, remember that guy I was talking about, Masayuki Tagai? Well, what do we have? It says here that he's the managing director of this whole thing called APAC for JP Morgan's payment business. In this role, Mike is responsible for industry issues, including global standards, market practice development in Asia Pacific. Mike is driving the foundational data capabilities such as implementing ISO 222 payment messages alongside advocating the ISO 222 methodology, enhancing FMI membership capabilities. There's a lot more that's to it here. Right? Went to University of Tokyo, MBA at MIT Sloan. Always MIT connections when it comes to quant, especially, right? As I take you to this next part, I want you guys to understand why, again, I'm bringing this ISO 22307, the impact for privacy. And, of course, this was updated back in September. Again, privacy. Think about it. Don't overthink about it. All right? Let's jump down into this. ISO TC307, blockchain distributed technologies, further collaboration. And again, why pull this together from June of last year? Well, again, pounding home the U.S. plug. Jennifer Bond-Caswell. Now this time, not just her from the U.S., but also Jeff Stapleton, approved by ballot, TC68 resolution to serve as ISO TC68 liaison experts to who? Quant Network standard of TC307. All right, that is a big deal because it's pounding home the United States again. All right, Jeff Stapleton, author of Security Without Obscurity. Stapleton began his career at Citicorp. Think about it. Everybody's wondering, why is the RLN so involved, or excuse me, why is Citi so involved with the RLN? There you go, because they have a robust history together. Look at this, with MasterCard. And then talking about other standards. There's your X9 plug again. I mean, I'm telling you flat out, I don't know if people research this stuff enough. And as we get more into this, here's Jeff Stapleton, member of Accredited Standards Committee, X9, Financial Industry Standards. He's worked with Wells Fargo. He's had over 30 years of cybersecurity, even more than Gilbert Verdin. Citicorp, MasterCard, KPMG, United States Air Force, who knows? Maybe this is the plug to Constellation DAG. But whatever the case be, Bank of America, Visa, American Express, and again, what else did he do that really stood out? Well, here you go. Look at this. Do you know that Wells Fargo gave him his flowers? The 100th Wells Fargo patent that was granted. We proudly recognize Jeff Stapleton for being named on 100 Wells Fargo patents and providing strategic guidance and leadership within the inventor community. And this guy is part of the ISO TC 307 Quant Network Standard. He's part of that committee of TC 307. Man, and most people are just focusing on transactions per second. And what about Overledger? Boy, that mash is sticking in stew. Once again, make.com. Call this the most alpha of alpha. I try to be humble, but you know what? I will give myself a little credit on this one. I really worked my butt off on this one. You guys are sending me DMs like crazy. Wells Fargo, parser of direct deposit email message. All right, I'm going to make a direct deposit, but I want to call to the Overledger on API call to do what? Make a direct deposit and create a smart contract transaction? My goodness. You see the orchestration workflow of how Wells Fargo talks to Overledger. Yeah, because you have people like who? You have people like this guy, for crying out loud. Jeff Stapleton, who already put it together with patents, for crying out loud. So boil that, mash it, stick it in a stew. All right, jumping back to this. ISO TC 68, artificial intelligence. Look at this for a second, everybody. This is an update. Man, is it ever an update. March of 2024. This flew under the radar, did it not? Absolutely flew under the radar. How so? Well, you see here that TC68 has an advisory group. Their convener, TC68, is, of course, has a liaison with 307, Quant Network Standard. But again, I want you guys to understand that you have this whole person of Gabriela Cruz, who's part of the U.S., is the convener of ISO TC68, and look what it says. Artificial intelligence, and based on ballot results, the resolution was approved. Her term will end in December 31st of 2026, but again, positive event. And again, what? Artificial intelligence. Jump further into this, people ask, and they state, Max, what about quant and the whole thing? Like, are they really going to be quantum resistant? Answer is yes. Go to x9.org. Look what it says here. During the webinar, Dustin Moody will explain the impact of quantum computers on the cryptography we use today. To mitigate this threat, NIST, which we know as your TC307 plug, because we've done the research 2 or 3 times what these does. You're welcome to go to the video section of this channel. Study it for yourself if you choose to do so. If price is all you care about, well then, that's not going to be it for you. But there is a certain amount of people that want to learn more about this stuff. So NIST has led an international multi-year effort to find quantum-resistant algorithms to replace the vulnerable ones. The webinar covered NIST post-quantum cryptography standardization, focusing on where we are with the standards right now, as well as the future. The webinar will also cover the U.S. government response and advise to agencies or organizations how to prepare. Right, we've already been there and done that. It already happened in 2023. And look where we're at now with the big announcements, especially when it comes to Project Stargate. So we jump further into this. Understand this. From share.ansi.org, you have, for example, Quant with ISO TC 307, part of the mix of a mobile network sharing based on distributed ledger technology for networks beyond IMT 2020 requirements and framework. That's a high priority. All right. Why is that a big deal? Because mobile network sharing based on distributed ledger technologies for networks beyond IMT 2020 refers to a concept where mobile network operators can share their network infrastructure and resources in a decentralized manner, utilizing distributed ledger technology like blockchain to create transparency record and manage these sharing agreements, enabling efficient network utilization and cost optimization for future mobile networks beyond the current 5G standards. And again, why did I pull this up? I want you to see this part. Because when we get to this next part of that PDF from share.anc.org, what do you see in regards to this? You see that even ISO TC 307 has got this thing going on in regards to framework of cross-edge decentralized service by using DLT and edge computing technology for IoT devices. there's your plug into something like Jasmy. And we already covered this many times in the past. As I take it further into this, by definition, cross-edge decentralized service framework uses DLT, uses edge computing for IoT devices. It would involve a system where IoT devices at different edge locations can securely share and process data in a decentralized manner. It leverages transparency and immutability of blockchain tech, and that's even defined, everybody, on the Quant Network site. It ensures trust. You get the idea when it comes to data sourcing through edge computing capabilities. Again, pounding home even Jasmy. I know I'm talking your ear off, but this is good stuff. I'm going to show you some real things to solidify it. I give everybody the award that sticks to the end, but I create a timeline with the research. Go to blockstand.eu. Technical Committee, ISO TC307, Blockchain Distributed Ledger Technology, again, Quant Network Standard, TC307 smart contracts and their applications. Does it mention anything about AI? Well, basically speaking, the answer is yes. What you will see here is down here in regards to artificial intelligence, it will state here that you need to have interoperability and compatibility with existing financial standards to provide legal and regulatory compliance in each transaction. You have to work towards regulatory framework in the mix, and that was established back in 2015 in that regard. So take you further into this, understanding this abstract, when we talk about that new ISO standard that's under the umbrella of TC307, well, AWI TS 23259, again, shows from the Standdict IEU, which is called EUOS, EU Observatory for ICT Standardization, references this about legally binding smart contracts. Does it mention anything about AI? It does. Latest discussions show 2 months ago, AI on the right side of your screen, providing comments in regards to trustworthiness framework, AI use in standards making process, and also artificial intelligence for managing the risk of AI systems to reduce safety, health, and fundamental right risk. If you watch the whole interview with Trump and Masa and the other guy from OpenAI, they all mention this when it comes to the health sector, so on and so forth. This is aging incredibly well, but let's face it, the majority of people don't have time to listen to all this and they click out. Are you one of those people? Hopefully you're not. Computer Security Division, Applied Cybersecurity Division, ACD, from NIST, cites that NIST actively participates in whole leadership positions in blockchain, DLT, and its U.S. Mirror Committee. That's profound. NIST staff has been instrumental in the launch of a U.S.-led project in physical asset disposition. And back to that reference about AWI. That's tremendous. As we get further into this, understand that it's not just the whole thing of the United States, but back on September 4th from cblocks.eu, work continues in the area of smart contracts. Smart contracts facilitate collaboration across industry, sectors, players, markets, and enable tracking of digital transactions, interactions. But basically speaking, you need that interoperability. And more importantly, you need to understand that you have experts focusing directly on the problem. And you have the whole thing of ISO TS 18126 about taxonomy and classification for smart contracts of what? Quant Network Standard with Working Group 3, smart contracts and their applications. That is profound. And that's worth pointing out, to say the least, because here's how we even connect that to things like Jasmy. With ISO TC307, you have ISO IEC, JTC1. I talked about that in the past, especially with Jasmy. Working Group 4, where one of their experts is contributing to the ongoing development of ISO AWI 24946. Now, we talked about some of this before. And with that said, why is this important? Because one of their experts is contributing not only to that, but it's the requirements and guidance for improving, preserving, and assessing the privacy capability of DLT systems. Through what? Private identifiable information. You see how this all comes together? Your Jasmy plug too, right? All right, as we get further into this, I want you guys to understand, I know somebody's going to ask this. All right, Max, I get it. So does ISO 24946 work with ISO TC307? Because you showed a different AWI, Max, and I get that. And here's your answer. The answer is yes. ISO AWI 24946 directly relates to and works with ISO TC 307 as both focus on standards related to blockchain and DLT, specifically concerning data governance, smart contracts, privacy within those systems. ISO AWI 24946 contributes to the development of privacy-focused requirements and guidance with the broader scope of ISO TC 307 Quant Network Standard. That's how that works. All right. Geez, Max, I think I get it. Well, I get it, but I want to pound it home that much more. I'm not going to make a statement of how I feel as though that these two will be the most expensive, that Quant will be the most expensive token in history, and that Jasmy could very well reach those crazy KPI targets. Well, check this out. ISO TC 307 and AWI T603 has Metaverse focus. QNT mentions VR interoperability with this particular standard. That's profound. Remember how you saw from Project Stargate, they mentioned the whole thing about chips and whatnot, like semiconductors. QNT and Render may seem two worlds apart from the realms of where each primarily operate, but Tokenizer points out that they commonly share the whole thing, that they're both at the forefront of standardizing their forts in the future, blockchain and, of course, digital graphics. And my thing is this. I want you guys to recognize, what is Jasmy doing with Junction? Very similar with the whole NVIDIA model. Exactly. That's why we point some of these things out. All right. I want to share this with you. Let's introduce Stephen Holmes, Quantum Investment Specialist, Department of Business and Trade. Why? Well, again, it's pointing out some key things. Quantum Investment Specialist for the UK Department of Business and Trade. Over 30 years. Okay? So when you see these terms about business and trade, well, where does Quant come in? When you hear trade, people think of XDC immediately, and, rightfully so. Well, the Department of Business and Trade, this guy, Mr. Stephen Holmes, is part of, well, look at what it says. It's a ministerial department of the government of the United Kingdom. It was established on the 7th of February 2023 by cabinet reshuffle under Rishi Sunak premiership. And just give you an idea of him, well, he was the former Prime Minister of the UK. And what Gilbert Verdian mentioned here a while back, great to see my ex-colleagues at HM Treasury support fintech and financial services, a critical sector to drive innovation and growth for the UK. And he tags Rishi Sunak, right? Yeah, former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. So, again, those two are friends and they're colleagues, and they used to work at HM Treasury. Birds of feather do flock together. All right. Now, something I want to point out also, back to the whole thing about Jasmy and SoftBank. Basic search on Grok, you can use other ones. And of course, we can give you a whole bunch of connections with actual documents, right? But again, how much have I already showed you? So based on available information, SoftBank's investment in Jasmy. SoftBank has ties to Jasmy through investments and partnerships. So notably, Mr. Masayuki Yoshida, who is the deputy president and CTO of Jasmy. At least he stepped down, but he's kind of advisor. Also holds a significant position at SoftBank Mobile. Again, those mobile examples I gave you earlier, indicating close relationship. There are connections between SoftBank and Jasmy in the context of blockchain and tech, particularly with the development of the credit exchange for NCCC. We cover that. Numerous guys, shout out to guys like Lil Bidman, X-Trix. I mean, there's a whole bunch of us, right? Using Jasmy's proprietary blockchain tech and through the partnership with Cybertrust, a SoftBank subsidiary, for securing Japanese citizens' data in My Number cards. SoftBank's role in Project Stargate. SoftBank is part of that joint venture announced by President Donald Trump, which includes $500 billion investment into Project Stargate. The project is focused on creating AI data centers across the United States, with SoftBank being one of the key investors alongside OpenAI, Oracle, so on and so forth. Jasmy's role. Given the connections, Jasmy might indirectly benefit or play a role through SoftBank's involvement in Project Stargate. I won't read all of this, but how? Jasmy's focus on IoT and data security through blockchain. Like it says, could be an opportunity for Jasmy to provide solutions for securing data within the AI data centers or for managing data from IoT devices that feed into this AI ecosystem. Now that's big. All right, let's finally give you some of the big answers. Azure AI Vision, PipeDream.com. Keep in mind that when it comes to PipeDream, there's three main ones. There's Quant. There's integration with PipeDream for the developer side. So it's not just 0 lines of code. It's like maybe 3 lines, or they could custom out. But there's also the whole thing of Make, and there's also Zapier. Okay, so again, Jasmy with Azure. So look at this: Azure AI Vision. Azure AI Vision API integrations. Build and run workflows using Azure AI Vision API. Use thousands of source available triggers and actions across 2,400 plus dApps. Okay, that's important. Or apps, I should say. Or write custom code to integrate any app or API in seconds. Think about that. Okay. Well, you may be thinking, well, that just says what it says. Who cares? I'll get into why you care. Go to azure.microsoft.com. In regards to AI Vision, enhance your apps with AI, Azure AI Vision. You can totally see this is, IoT related in that regard, especially with the visual. And then we jump back into here. Boil it, mash it, stick it in stew. Once again, pipe dream. Azure OpenAI service integrations. Integrate the Azure OpenAI service API with the Overledger API. Does it mention anything in regards to some key things that is on the mind of everybody? Like, I don't know, smart contracts? Well, yes. Second from the top. Says you can even try it. Overledger Azure OpenAI service. So, yes, new smart contract event. Call for an API. Again, smart contracts, new smart contracts. Overledger needs to sign on those smart contracts. New account event, new smart contract event. Again, it's all there, right? That's tremendous. All right, how about this? Little Bidman, shout out to him. NEC has introduced a secure PC monthly subscription service. And it mentions how NEC secure PC service is about, combining safety and convenience. And you can kind of see how that workflow comes together. And if anything, I'll put it up on the next screen for you. Yeah, look at this. So it shows Microsoft OneDrive. It shows, for example, Azure. See how that works out right there? You see it in the visuals. And it kicks it down to like data storage. What about like data storage through things what, Jasmy has going on? IPFS or personal data lockers. You get the gist of how this is all orchestrated, how it all works, to say the least. Some people call it speculative, call it whatever you want. Why get involved in things after they take off? That whole notion just drives me nuts. But it's okay. Because when you get back into it, shout out to Neo. Let's jump back for a second. Neo has something here that he references, and I think it's also worth sharing. So basically, let's share this for a second. Actually, before we get back to Neo, SB's technology will be used to protect Microsoft 365 and secure core PCs. Jasmy works with SoftBank's tech through CyberTrust and BitPoint, also linked to Azure through Aplix. Akashi is owned by Sony. And again, we covered this in the past, but there's a whole new wave of new people. SoftBank Technology has a track record for introducing Microsoft products for a long time, but not only Microsoft 365 E5, but also Microsoft 365 E3 and Microsoft. We know we have the whole thing of knowledge and how to, bring the products such as Azure and OpenAI. Look at that service and Power Platform. As a result, we not only introduce security products, but also provide consistent service from proposing optimal solutions. My goodness. And to pound it home with Neo X Tricks, what does he say? He thanks Lil Bidman, because that's what we do with our research consortium. We don't step on our toes. We honor each other with great research. So Neo says, thanks, my friend, referring to Lil Bidman. You're always insightful. Just wanted to add a little clarification for those who might not know yet. You might be new, too. You might not know. It's the connection between Jasmy and Aplix regarding Microsoft Azure is that Jasmy has adopted Nutrix Cloud Japan for the cloud storage of its personal data locker. Nutrix can also connect to Amazon Web Services and Google Cloud Platform. And you can see how that kind of works. So those two did fantastic research. Shout out to Houston. He mentions that, and I've showed this before in the past, Microsoft to invest $2.9 billion in AI cloud infrastructure in Japan. U.S. $2.9 billion commitment to Microsoft's single largest investment in its 46-year history in Japan. Until yesterday, right? Because yesterday, what do we cite here? Again, a reminder that you have this. You now have $500 billion. It was the biggest in the entire history of this type of thing. That's massive. That's $500 billion. Getting further into this, let's point out the moment you've been waiting for. Why don't you just point it out first, Max? Why don't you just make a 30-second short? Not my style. You know, at the end of the day, I need to do something to earn something too, right? I need to provide extra value. But boil it, mash it, stick it, and stew. This is how you have the likes of Jasmy with Azure, and you have, you know, this whole thing of Azure OpenAI, everybody. My God, mic drop moment. Make an API call to the Quant Overledger to prepare a smart contract transaction. Kicking it down to who? Another player from Project Stargate, Oracle, to make an API call. Then Oracle kicks it to what? The Oracle Fusion Cloud sales to get a record. Record of what? Well, could be anything, but whatever the case be, it works. And then Overledger to sign that smart contract transaction. For over 2 years, I received so much criticism that I'm full of crap when it comes to the whole thing of orchestration of both Jasmy, not indirectly, like you see here, and also things like Quant. Boil that, mash that, stick it in a stew. And if anything, you could go to videos like this, Oracle AI Explained, because the video is getting too long. Minute 26, you could get to that. Verifying Oracle with intelligent AI agents. The section, you know, if you want your homework, you just watch the first part in regards to this part here of, you know, 16 seconds to about maybe the 5-second mark. Or sorry, 5-minute mark. All right. Introducing Oracle intelligent AI agents. How long ago, Max? Just last September. And they do an excellent job explaining that. Now watch this. Let's take you over here. In that little brief interview, they'll talk about large language models. According to X Tricks, in the cloud, large language models, which Jasmy basically solves, in the cloud are limited by latency, infrastructure costs, and bandwidth requirements, points that the team has previously highlighted. Junction is designed to function as a decentralized supercomputer dedicated to real-time processing with direct access to data provided by Jasmy. This will not only optimize computational performance, but also reduce cost, improve security as the data never leaves Jasmy's secure environment. Think about that. And what about like Junction? Where do they come into the mix? Junction comes to play as the processing engine to analyze and interpret this data instantly, allowing Jasmy to enrich its ecosystem with more advanced smart applications. Right, Jasmy itself wasn't going to get it done, so we have a layer 2. And that's going to get it done. All right. Should we boil it again? Should we mash it again? Should we stick that sucker in a stew? Let's boil it up. Let's mash it all to hell. Integrate the Azure Storage API with the Overledger API through Azure Storage. Massively scalable, secure object storage for cloud-native networks, archives, data lakes, HPC, and machine learning. Integrate that with Quant's Overledger. Set up the Azure Storage API trigger, run workflow, which integrates with Quant's Overledger API. PipeDream's integration platform allows you to integrate Azure Storage and Overledger remarkably fast. Yes, fast. And it's free for developers. And what does it say? New account event for Overledger API. Does it mention smart contract, Max? That's what I want to see. It does. Boom, right there. New smart contract event. Instant from the Overledger API. And plus all these other ones in regards to Azure Storage and Overledger. On and on and on. And examples of the code. On and on. You get the gist. All right. What else do we got? Max, there's more? Yeah, like Billy Mays, baby. But wait, there's more. I shared the whole thing about VR. Look at this. OmniOne. I'll try to blow this up a little bit more. So they basically are part of that mix. Back to what Tokenizer mentioned before. OmniOne, try to blow it up just a little bit more. Sorry about that. Has accumulated various resources or references, I should say, on how or know-how by successfully carrying out diverse projects in blockchain, public and finance sectors such as mobile driver's license. Again, your DID. And mobile public official ID card. Think about this. Think about Jasmy and the My Number card for the Ministry of the Interior and Safety, digital wallet, simple authentication service for the military. Remember that reference we had in the past for somebody from TCU 307, the United States Air Force? So military, manpower, administration, and mobile resistant card for the South Gyeongsang provincial government. It assures service interoperability by complying with international technology standards such as W3C, ISO TC307, again, Quant Network. It reflects the digital ID technologies and industry trends through an active participant in global bodies, including ADI Association and DID Alliance. Now, again, how do we confirm some of the locations? So, Gyeongsang-nam-do is in the province of South Korea. And, again, why is this important? Because if you go to OmniOne.net, lead the paradigm shift in identity verification. And, again, shows like Samsung, shows some other key things. Again, this sounds very familiar, right? So we talk about my number cards. There's the digital, DID, all this stuff, right? What about ISO TC307? Do they mention it, Max? I need to see it. Show me, Maximus. All right, there you go. Blockchain-based decentralization ID platform leading the paradigm shift in identity identification. It complies with international technical standards such as W3C, ISO, and Quant Network standard of ISO TC307, ensuring high compatibility. They have the whole thing of orchestration with enterprise, DID. This is all coming together. So again, Quant and Jasmy have some things in common, do they not? Yes, they do. Yes, they definitely do. And to close it out, just in case you're new, my number card is essential that the it's essentially a Japanese equivalent of DID. Again, DID to Quant. It enables electronic verification of one's identity through an embedded IC chip on the card. And then finally, you're like, oh my gosh, finally? Yeah, on a simple search. What about ISO 27001? Yes, that is Jasmy standard. So how does 27001 work with Quant Network standard TC307? Well, ISO 27001, the standard for information security management systems, provides a framework for organizations to protect their data, while ISO TC307 focuses specifically on the security of blockchain and distributed ledger technology. Essentially, an organization uses DLTs, they can leverage the security practices outlined in ISO 27001, which is Jasmy standard, to safeguard the sensitive data stored and processed within those DLT systems, ensuring robust information security even within the new technological landscape of course, blockchain. And what is an example? I need to see the example, Maximus. I don't need to see all this other mumbo jumbo. Well, here's an example. A company developing a blockchain-based financial platform would use ISO 27001, again, Jasmy, to manage overall information security like user data protection, access controls, and incident response, while also incorporating specific security measures defined by ISO TC307 standards to protect sensitive data stored, of course, on the blockchain. Oh, my goodness. There you have it. Try to keep it under 1 hour. My goal was originally a half an hour, but this sucker was jam-packed with everything. You guys, and I appreciate it, have blown up my inbox like it's going off like Grand Central Station, like a red bell going off on the red phone, saying, Max, you got to jump into here, and you got to cover this, baby. Let's do it. So with that said, glad to bring it to you guys. I appreciate the community engagement. And here's your key word if you listen to the entire outline, and that is 2 words. Community strong. And I'll know that you listen to the entire outline. I'm rooting for all your success. Quant, Jasmy, even other things I'm not personally into, which is like XCN. You guys always request me to cover XCN, and that's okay. Maybe one day I will. But whatever the case be, thank you. God bless you. We'll see you on the next one.